Welcome back to another episode of High Voltage Diesel. And today, you guys are going to figure out why this is probably going to be the worst investment I ever made. And it's going to cause me to go bankrupt.
There's one way to check your oil. That's weird. I'm glad it didn't happen over there.
Boy, I tell you, I'm glad that didn't happen on the road.
Man,
that would have sucked. Oh, gosh. What is this big block of iron doing in here? Well, hopefully, if everything works out right, it's going to go in the 70 Impala someday. Anyway, what is this? Well, this is a big block Chevy. Oh yeah, what kind of big block Chevy? It is a 454 big block Chevy out of a motorhome. And I spent 2 whole days fishing it out of the motorhome, and it was a real pain in the butt. Just let me tell you that. It was like, it wasn't fun. But anyway, this is where we're at now. So what's wrong with this thing? Of course there's something wrong with it, because just look at it. Well, it is locked right up solid, and it will not spin in either direction. So that's not a good thing. With it being locked up, I was not able to get the torque converter off of the flywheel because I wasn't able to spin it to get down to the bolts right there. So the bolts on the top, I'm not able to get to. I'm going to have to fight to get them off. So the torque converter stayed on the motor as I pulled the transmission off. So we are going to hopefully figure out why this thing is locked up. I'm really curious. But first, well, the 360 that came out of the Dodge motorhome, I just seem to be a motorhome enthusiast lately, is currently taking up my only engine stand. Well, this engine stand isn't really something you'd want to build a big block Chevy on. Even though I did build a big block Chevy on this stand, it was not fun. And you have to have a piece of wood right here to hold the front up, otherwise it gets real sketchy. So basically where that leaves us is absolutely no engine stand. So how about we make a 2-hour trip, hour each way, and go get an engine stand? And there we go. We got our used split freight engine stand. Looks like it'll work pretty good. That is some pretty thick steel right there that motor sits on. And this has got 4 legs instead of 3. Or whatever, 4 wheels instead of 3. I don't know. Well, it's actually got 5 wheels, which is probably actually going to make life hard to try to move this. But we got a stone floor and a skid steer, so things will be easy. I don't know if anybody else can hear that, but I can hear a 383 stroker through the woods. Somebody's over there having fun. We're gonna be having fun too when we get this thing running. Looks like Twinkle Toes made quite the mess in here. So, alright, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get this torque converter off and get these bolts out right here, because this thing won't turn. And well, in order to put it on the engine stand, I got to get this torque converter off somehow. Well, before I get yelled at by all the people in the comments saying I'm working underneath this suspended load, we got to figure out how. So this thing is stupid. So this is one of these mid to late 80s half metric things here. So this is a 15 millimeter. But anyway, we got to figure out how we're going to get these bolts out of here, out of the top. So this is like a heavy duty application here. So we got 6 bolts on the torque converter instead of 3. So these 3 up here are going to be extremely difficult to try to get out. So, oh boy, what did I get myself into? You know, so of course, right on top, you guys can't see it, but right in here on the back side of the flywheel, there's like a counterweight. Well, it's like a balancing weight kind of thing right here. You can see that ridge on the other side of the gear. And of course that's on top, because on bottom all the other bolts are unrestricted. This one here, but luckily it looks like we're able to get the wrenches to fit just in there, and it looks like once I break these bolts loose they'll come out pretty easy. That actually broke free. That actually broke free very easy. And now we're not going to be able to get the wrench off. Oh, maybe. I don't know, nobody could see what in the heck I'm doing. Look at that. I actually got it. Alright, now this one right here is going to be the other difficult one, possibly. Oh, well, maybe not. I'm already liking the way this is coming apart. Look at that. You know, usually when they start easy, well, not all the time, but a lot of times when they start easy, they go easy through the whole thing. Alright, this is nice. Good. Alright, so we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. Since when we're struggling getting these bolts out, because I'm struggling right now, I'll give you a little history about this motor. So, why are we even screwing with this motor if it's locked up? So, apparently, the gentleman I got this motor from that owns the camper I pulled out of, so he used to go out every month and start it up and let it run. You know, he didn't drive the camper, it just wanted to let it run to keep everything, you know, going. And what he said happened was one day it wouldn't start because the battery was low. And he said this thing started and purred like a kitten and ran very, very good every time he started it. And he says one day it didn't quite crank over in the middle of winter. He started it every month faithfully, and the batteries were going down. Now this was about 10 years ago, before, you know, Amazon jump packs and all that stuff got really affordable. And he didn't have a jump pack or anything right then and there, so he went in and got some starting fluid and sprayed starting fluid down in it, ether, and he said it started right up and it ran for about 2 seconds, and he said it just made like a rah, and it just locked right up, and it was just locked right up after that. He got underneath of it right after took the dust cover off, tried to turn the flywheel, and he said he couldn't turn it for the life of him. He said he was cranking on it that day to the point where it had good oil pressure already. So I'm pretty positive it's not a spun bearing or anything like that. And the guy that I got it from I've known for a while, so his word is, you know, pretty good. If he says that's what happened, I believe that's what happened. It wasn't like he was trying to sell this motor to me. You know, I just wanted another project, because we need more projects here at High Voltage Diesel.
We need more.
So, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So basically, I'm going to take a wild guess and think that, you know, not anything major is wrong with this motor. I'm hoping that nothing major is wrong with it, and I'm hoping whatever it is wrong with it is going to be the kind of fix that I can fix without going to the machine shop. And there we go. There's our torque converter. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this flex plate, flywheel, whatever you want to call it, off. Because with a locked up motor that I have no idea why it's locked up, very interesting on why it's going to be locked up with that story. There's probably a good chance we're going to have to pull the crank out of this. It'll just make it a lot easier to do that. We need a little bit of Hammurabi. There we go. Okay. Time to fashion our engine stand onto this thing. See, now with these engine stands, what I like to do is I like to get bolts that are too long and a bunch of washers. And I like to make it so the bolts go all the way in the threads as far as they can go. Obviously, you don't want to jam it in there too far, but you want them to go all the way in. You don't want just a couple threads holding your entire engine up. I think this engine here weighs about 685 pounds, they say. That's not really something you want to, you know, it's already sketchy enough having 4 3/8 bolts holding it on. So you want to make sure you got good grade 8 bolts, and then make sure you got as many threads as you can in that thing. There we go. Well, now that the engine's on the stand, now the real work begins. You know, it looks like I need about one more thing in this garage. Where is that gonna go? Where is it gonna go? I mean, I can't put it next to the 360 because then they're gonna fight. Because Chevy people and Mopar people just don't mix. It's like mixing oil and water. So like if it goes here, I'm gonna get some really harsh feedback. Where is this thing gonna go? More junk. Well, it's got to start with pulling the 70 Chevy out, and then we'll have to find a place for it up front. Well, first we got to see if this thing is even gonna hold the weight. So let's go set this down. You know what? I'm pretty darn impressed in this thing. If this was on that other stand, I think the front of that motor would be touching the ground. This is really nice. It holds it really good too. Awesome. It's not even trying. I set it down and it didn't even settle at all. It just, as soon as it touched the ground, the chain slacked up and that was it. Man, I'm real happy with this. I got a good deal on this too. I bought it off Marketplace. I had a little drive to go get it, but that's all right. 30 miles a gallon. Good. Got the old Chevy out. well, high voltage fans. So normally, see, we're down to one path in and out now. This place is completely trashed. We just got stuff piled up wherever, whenever, stupid furnace, and just, we could barely get through on this side. Of course, I was outside and it started raining out. Got the car all wet. I started sanding on that, but anyway, let's get back at the task at hand. So normally I'd pick this dump up, but I'm really impatient. I want to see how bad I got burnt on this motor. I want to see just what a whopping pile of junk this thing is. But check this out. This isn't something you see every day from everybody. It's a Mopar 360 and a Chevy big block. Side by side. Look at the comparison. That big block is definitely bigger than the 360. Now, I'm neither a Chevy guy or a Mopar guy. I'm a if I like it kind of guy. But to be perfectly honest, I grew up with Chevys, stuff just like this, back in the 70s and 80s, 60s. And I do prefer Chevy engines over Mopar engines. I mean, they're very similar, but the Chevy engines are just cheaper and simpler to work on. Now, Fords, we won't even go there. But I like it. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. I love this car, and I love the 73 Duster. So I love both engines. I think they're both really cool. But anyway, we're going to focus on this engine, and we're going to find out why this thing is locked up. So since it's already right here, I'm just going to start by pulling the top end off, because you guys can't see it, but down in the spark plug holes is some rust. So we're going to see what we got. I'm probably going to pull the heads off. And I know, I blew the crap out of this thing, and I didn't plug any of the orifices. And you guys are like, oh my God, there's all kinds of stuff going down in there. Well, guess what? We're probably going to end up doing either a redneck backyard rebuild or a full rebuild. Anyway, we're going to do a rebuild, so who cares? Let's see what we got. I'm getting hot. I'm getting impatient. I don't want to wait anymore. Here we go. Here's the first stage. Well, that came off easy. All right, so just go through and do a quick little inspection on everything. I don't see anything crazy to worry about here on this side. Of course, it'd be nice to spin the motor over and see if we could see anything, but well, I don't see anything that sticks out in the obvious right offhand. I'm not going crazy anyway, because I know either way this engine's gonna come apart. So like, I'm just gonna kind of find stuff as we go here. Okay, we got her opened up pretty good now. Let's see here. Well, This kind of stuff right here is less than ideal. There's a lot of rust inside those ports. So that's not great. There's 4 of them in particular, so it must have been just the one plane. Probably that one. It looks like the worst one. But I'm still not seeing anything catastrophic. Basically working at pulling these heads off, because that's ultimately where we're going with this. I don't see any crazy bent push rods or anything like that. One thing I know, pulling these heads off, some of these head bolts do not look like they're gonna be nice to me. Those 2 right there in particular. But all right, well, I'm gonna get everything pulled out here. I mean, the cam actually don't look bad at all. That cam looks really nice. So I'm just gonna keep on pulling stuff off. I mean, my guess is something happened in one of the cylinders. Either a ring broke or simply the ether might have just locked it up. I mean, ether, in rare cases, ether can lock an engine up if you spray enough in there. I mean, I'm not sure how much was sprayed in there. Probably not a ton from what it sounds, but you know, that could happen. It could dry the cylinder wall out just enough to break a ring, or even just lock the piston up altogether, taking the lubrication out of it. I've sprayed a lot of ether in engines before, even junk engines, trying to break them, and I haven't broke them. So, yeah, I mean, it's not looking bad, though. I mean, at least everything isn't full of rust. Looks like a lot of this stuff's pretty reusable. All right, these bolts are actually 5/8, but there's not much left to them. I got a chisel in there all the way around lightly like this and got out all the rust that was packed in there. So I guess that's how you actually convert a 5/8 to a 9/16. All right, we got one successfully out. How about another one? Now, that's about the only thing metric sizes are good for, is when rust takes a little bit off the... I don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Try this. That's a 15 mil. That seems promising. Oh yeah. Good. Perfect. Well, there's one thing I can guarantee so far about this motor. We're definitely going to be buying new head bolts for this if it goes back together. So I'm just going to have to play this game all the way down and hope that nothing crazy happens. Okay, well, somehow, I don't know how, but luck must have been on my side. Remember what I said in the beginning about that torque converter? The bolts came out easy, and I'm like, this is starting out easy, so hopefully it keeps going that way. Somehow I managed to get all those bolts out, and actually this side was like that too, and took my time and didn't run into any major problems. They all came out. So now I'm going to blast the rest of them off with the impact. I already loosened them up, started from the outside, worked my way in. And he was telling me, the guy I got it from, that when he was sitting in the motorhome, when it locked up, it sounded like it was coming from this side. So I'm going to take this side off first, just kind of for that reason, and see if we find anything interesting. Stick something in here, give it a little, there we go. And let's find a place to grab this and take it off and go put it in a sawhorse. Okay, well, I'm seeing some pretty nasty rust, which is definitely not good. That's really bad right there. Huh, well, I think that's gonna turn this from a simple kind of get it running job to an overhaul, unfortunately, because that's not really what I wanted to see right there. I was hoping to find some light surface rust. Alright, well, let's just keep plugging along. So I'm not seeing anything that sticks out big time on this side either. I mean, that's really bad, but he said this engine's been sitting for about 10 years. So, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of transmission fluid in there. But that is not looking good at all. So, nothing else sticks out really big. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull the other side off, and, well, we're just going to see what happens. Okay, well, here goes round 2. Alright, and that is the head on the right. Still, I don't see any major issues. There's definitely some pretty nasty rust on this, man. I'm starting to wonder now. I gotta decide whether I just want to try to find another one or rebuild this thing. I've already built a big block before, and basically it was to the point where I would have been better off just buying a crate engine. By the time I got through paying for everything and buying all new stuff, I would have been better off buying a crate engine. It would have been cheaper. So, well, anyway, I'm just gonna keep on going, because what do we got to lose? There's the 2 heads. I'm gonna flip them over in a minute, try to see what those look like underneath. Yeah, the more and more I look at this cylinder, the more and more we're looking like a rebuild here. That's pretty bad, and that stinks. That one's worse. This one here isn't terrible. That one there I could probably fix up. But this one here, I don't know. I'm not gonna scratch it up too much with the screwdriver till I figure out exactly what we're gonna do here. But I'm thinking, well, I mean, to have it done the right way, it should definitely be bored out. I mean, there's absolutely no question. But this whole point of this car was supposed to be a budget build. That's the motor right there for the Duster that's supposed to have money put into it, not this one. I mean, I wanted to put a little bit of money into this, but I didn't want to bury myself in it. So I'm going to pop all these lifters out, put them in order, just in case I do want to reuse this cam. I don't think I'm going to, but pop all these out, see what they look like. Nice, right in the dirt. Yeah. That's exactly what we wanted. Boy, that thing came off hard. Wow. Woo. That put the puller and the impact gun to the test big time. Holy crap, this thing's hot. Woo. Wow. Wow. That timing chain is loose, man. It's all plastic. Look at this junk. I actually heard about this. I heard that they started to make these out of plastic. I know that these and a lot of the oil pump shafts were plastic. A long time ago when I was a kid, my dad blew up a big block because of the plastic oil pump shaft. It goes down and spins the oil pump. Plastic broke on it. And now we got plastic timing hardware. Huh, interesting. I've heard that they'd make these plastic, but I never seen one. That's pretty darn loose though. But one thing I can see is that cam spins freely. So I know that's not the cause of our lockup. Our cam actually spins really, really nice. Get ready to see me go for a ride because it's time to spin this engine over. And one thing I know is I'm sure it weighs more than I do. Drain all that crap right in the oil can. Welcome back to day 2 of this 454 teardown with high voltage diesel. We're getting ready because it's gonna be interesting today. You know, we're about ready to come unhinged around here because I still can't really see anything super clear about what's exactly wrong with this thing. But we're just gonna keep unbolting stuff and dropping things off. And eventually we're going to figure out what's going on. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to start pulling the rods off one by one. I know the pistons aren't going to come out easy. But I'm going to try to pull all the rods and then pull the crank and then try to hammer all the pistons out and see how that works out for me. Probably not good, but We're gonna try it anyway. Come on, folks. I want to see how many you can't do that I can get out of this. It's going to be exciting too, because then we can see what the bearings look like. Each one of these when we pull them off. See if we find something interesting. You can't do that. I can definitely tell you from past experience, it is a lot easier pulling a motor apart that's not locked up. I don't want to damage anything too bad, even though we're looking at a full rebuild anyway at this point. Coming off pretty darn hard. There's no room to get to anything, unfortunately. It's so hard trying to get to stuff. There we go. Well, there's the first bearing. Can't feel anything readily. Oh my God, I'm scratching that up with a screwdriver. Oh boy. Yeah, this is not gonna be easy getting these pistons out. I know that right now. That's why I'd really, you know, the crank journal looks really good. I'd really like to get the crank out of this. I'd like to pull all these and get the crank out of it. Then I don't have to worry about marring up the crank, because so far the crank looks good, but I got 7 more to do plus 5 main caps. Alright, so as I've been pulling these caps off, I've been trying to turn it and just kind of see if I can find out exactly what cylinder is the issue here. And really 100% sure, but I am starting to get some rotation. But just a little bit. It's actually looking like this cylinder right here, and this cylinder and this cylinder. And I'm not reefing on it, but I am starting to get some rotation now, so that's actually makes me happy. And actually, the more I'm trying this out, the easier it's getting. I'm actually starting to get some pretty decent action here. All right, well, that's good. That's what we want, right? I'm gonna try to pound a couple cylinders out here without getting too friendly with the crank here. This crank looks like it's in good shape, so I really don't want to mar this crank up at all. What I need to do is find something a little bit more user-friendly than a pry bar. You know what? I think this piece of aluminum stock is going to work great, because aluminum is a lot softer than steel, and if I do accidentally hit the crank, this is going to do a lot less damage than a steel pry bar. So I'm going to try to jam a couple of these cylinders out and see what happens here. I have to try to turn this back the other way, though. Just really don't want to mess anything up too bad, because yeah, I'm actually getting good rotation on it right now. Look at that. That cylinder is just about out right there. There's a piston. Alright, we got another piston out. It don't look bad at all, honestly. Looks pretty darn good. Alright, let's keep going. This is fun. Alright, boys. We found the problem. Unreal. The guy that I got this motor from kept telling me, he says, when I was sitting in this thing running, it sounded like it was right next to me. Now, mind you, this is a motor home, so, you know, like, you'd be sitting here, kind of, and the motor would be right here. It's like a van-style thing with a doghouse. And he says, I swear it was that cylinder 7 or whatever, and it was the one that, the rear left rearmost one, that's the one that made the noise and everything. And he says, I'm pretty sure it sounded like a bent rod. We looked in here, and I did not see anything that looked like a bent rod at all. And I mean, all the rods looked good from up on top. But guess what? I pulled cylinder number 7 out, and look at what we found. We found a bent rod, and that's actually bent quite a bit. Actually, all these rods might be slightly bent, but look at that compared to a straight one. That's a bent rod. Unreal. And this is actually the cylinder that was really rusty too. And check this out. Look at what I found here. So the crank actually hit this and caused this to crack right here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a crack that goes all the way across. Of course, GoPros don't zoom in that well, but right there you could just see the start of a crack in the camera, but this is the crank hit that right there. So those are those aluminum shavings I was talking about. So basically, this is a good thing that this happened, because had this motor just cracked that and kept running, we would have been talking about a catastrophic failure, and well, we definitely wouldn't be talking about rebuilding this motor at that point. Well, the motor probably wouldn't have ever came out of the motorhome because it would have blown something up. But there's the problem, fellas. Just a bent rod. So that's pretty darn exciting. And look at this now. I got 4 pistons left in it yet. And she rotates pretty darn freely. Even with the rusted cylinder walls. So look at that. That's what it was right there. Right there's the journal of the one that was bent. Now I'm reckoning that it probably didn't do any damage to the crank, because if it bent the crank, these motors are so precise that if it bent the crank, I would imagine. Let's see what we got for end play here. Don't really have anything for end play. Oh yeah, we do. We got a little bit of end play. Oh yeah. I think it's like 0.003 on these. I don't know. It's been a long time since I built a big block, about 15 years, so I might be wrong on some stuff, so forgive me. Don't give me too much trouble. But when I put this back together, I'm gonna obviously, yeah, we actually got end play, free end play now. Good. Well, that's it. So I'm pretty darn happy now. So I'm gonna keep pulling stuff out anyway, because at this point we are talking about, I gotta see what the cylinders look like and see if I can fix them or not and all that rubbish. So we're just gonna keep on pulling stuff out, but definitely there is the problem right there, a bananaed rod. Unreal. So, well, if at the least we're talking about putting rods and bearings in it now. So that's I'm happy that that's kind of all it was. Well, all the rods are out, and look how easy she spins now. Just the way it should. Look at that. This is great. All the journals look pretty good. There's some minor things on some of the journals. I think this one had, that one there had a scratch in it that I can kind of feel, but oh, for a backyard rebuild like this, just go around that with some really, really fine sandpaper. I'm not building a full blown out race engine that needs to be all perfect. So I'm pretty happy with that. As far as the rods go, all the bearings look like they're pretty worn. All the bearings look like they're pretty normal, actually. I mean, they're definitely worn, but I can't feel any grooves really bad. You know, everything is in good shape. Even the one that's bent. This is the one that's bent, and the bearing is really pretty good. So yeah, we're in very good shape here. I'm very happy. It doesn't look like there's any damage to the block. You can plainly see right here is the crank right here, the counterweight on the crank is what was hitting the piston, and that's why it was locked up. The rod got bent and it pulled the piston. It's basically pulling the piston against the crank, which caused the problem. So definitely doesn't look like it did any damage to the crank. And like I said, I think if the crank was bent even just slightly, it wouldn't be turning this freely with my thumb with ease. The biggest thing is if the rod got bent enough to hit the cylinder wall, and I don't see any evidence of that, so that's great. So there's actually, now that I'm looking at this a little deeper, there's a chance I might be able to just hone this out and put it back together with minimal parts. Actually in better shape. So I'm going to get all the mains off, look at the bearings, get this crank out, we'll have a bare block pretty soon. Yes, I did loosen these first. That little 3/8 impact isn't that powerful. Alright, I'm going to keep all this stuff together. I'm probably going to get different new head bolts, but I'm just going to keep all the head bolts and everything together the way they're supposed to be, so. You know what really surprised me about this motor is that it's a 2-bolt main coming out of a giant motorhome. I think this motorhome was like 11,000 pounds or 12,000 pounds, and that was just the empty weight of it. There's a rumor that says that 2-bolt mains are actually tougher anyway, because I guess the 4-bolt mains are actually they crack in between the two bolts. Right in the dirt. Thrust bearing don't look bad. Yeah, we're not in bad shape here, guys. Yeah, let's clean off some of the journals here and see what we got. Nothing that sticks out at all. Everything looks pretty good, actually. Very good. There's definitely a little bit of wear on the bearings, but nothing that's really, really crazy. But I'm definitely going to put new bearings in it. Okay, let's see if I can blow my back out. Ugh. Alright, there's all the top bearings. Top ones never look bad anyway. Alright, our last piece is the cam. So this is why I like to wait until we're upside down to pull the cam out. You leave the timing gear on it so that you can kind of grab it, because again, I'm really not wanting to bring this to the machine shop and have all new bearings put in it. But either way, it's a good practice, because you can actually reach down in here when the crank is out and help stabilize the cam as you walk it through all the bearings. And just be really careful and try not to damage anything too bad. I think it's pretty much impossible to get a cam out with at least hitting the bearings slightly, but the less you hit them, the better off you're going to be. Alright, and there's our cam. Cam really looks good. I would honestly rerun this, but the thing is it probably, being the stock cam, it probably doesn't sound cool. It probably just sounds like a regular engine idling. And come on, we need a nice idle on this thing when we get done. We're going to go through all that. I want this thing to sound good when it idles. But it's kind of a shame because this cam actually looks really nice. I mean, there's absolutely no excessive wear on it at all. Bearings look beautiful. Well, the journals. Bearings look beautiful down in there too. Man, it's kind of a shame not to run this cam. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put the mains back together for now, just to try to prevent anything from getting lost. Just kind of throw this stuff back together and just make life easier. I'll take them off again as I need to. Alright, I'm going to wash out our worst cylinder here so we can kind of see what we have. See how bad it is. Honestly, don't look that bad now that I got it apart. Okay, what do we got here? You know, that actually looks like some kind of like coating. That don't look like rust pitting. You know, the camera doesn't really do it justice, but it looks like that's some kind of like something almost baked on there, kind of. Like, it just doesn't look like rust. I mean, it's rust, but it just doesn't look like it's like damaged. So I'm not really sure. I mean, all the rest of the cylinders are easily fixable. This one's got a little bit of a scoring going on, but nothing crazy. Like, all the rest of the cylinders are beautiful. This one here is the same thing. It's just kind of just a little bit of like something baked on there, it almost looks like. He said he put transmission fluid down in the bores for a number of years, so, you know, maybe it something to do with that. I mean, water definitely got in this thing, no doubt. But just trying to see if we could do a backyard job on this, or if it has to go to the machine shop. I really don't want this to go to the machine shop because it's a budget build. I mean, just because it has to go to the machine shop doesn't mean it can't be a budget build, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna do some looking around on this, and I don't want to scratch the cylinders up too bad, but you can see like that crap just kind of comes off of there. Not really sure what the deal is here. It just scrapes right off. It's weird. So I don't know, I'm gonna see what I can figure out on this. Yeah, well, I spent a few hours deliberating, thinking about things. I think what I'm gonna do is a case of you can't do that. Take some 180 grit sandpaper, and I'm gonna kind of knock down the spot that's built up a lot. We're gonna try this. Worst case, it don't work, we'll just send it to the machine shop. Really trying to get out of that expense, but you know, sometimes it's just inevitable. Alright. You know what? It's already looking a lot better. I don't think this is going to be that big of a problem. Okay, so that's step one. Wait till you see step two. So here's our master plan to try to machine this block. We got a split freight Splitsburg cylinder hone, and we are going to try to fix some of this crap, see what we could destroy. So I do have the bore cleaned out really well with brake parts cleaner. We're gonna shove this in there, spray some WD-40 on this thing. We're gonna really screw up the paint jobs for the next 20 years. I'm gonna set this thing at like a really low. That way if I do hit something, it ain't gonna break it, hopefully. It's already looking good. I tell you what, guys, this is looking pretty darn good already. Now the trick with a hone is you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to sit here for 3 hours trying to do this, because you'll ultimately end up doing more damage. If it's to the point where it has to go to the machine shop, it has to go to the machine shop. But at this point, I don't have anything to lose by trying a few things and seeing if I can fix this without going to the machine shop. And I gotta say, you gotta be careful not to go down too far. I tell you what, I'm gonna check this out, because this is looking pretty darn good. Well, we are looking a heck of a lot better, I will say that. Yeah, check that out. That actually did a really good job just in the little bit of screwing around that I did. I can't feel anything right now. You could still see a little bit, but and the rest of the cylinders look beautiful. I just put that in there real quick before I started to see how it would work, but we're gonna go through and do all of them. I mean, technically, like I keep saying, this should definitely go to the machine shop if you were trying to do, you know, like a race car or something. But for what I'm doing, I'm not looking for any kind of major performance. I want a cool cruiser. I'm gonna do this for a little bit more on this cylinder and see if it looks any better, which I think it will be. But you don't want to go too crazy with hones, because you don't want to essentially bore your block out. I mean, you're definitely widening it by, you know, maybe a thousandth or so, but you got to be careful not to go crazy, because you could definitely open this up too much, and then now you're going to have bigger problems. You're taking the shape out of the cylinder. This isn't going to get your cylinder round again, but for a backyard redneck build, I'm actually pretty impressed with that. Well, there it is right there. It definitely looks worse on camera than it does in real life. I spent about 10 minutes or so on it with the hone, showering it with WD-40. I really don't want to go any further than this though, because I don't want to start enlarging this hole too much. So I really just want to get stock pistons and put it back in here. But I honestly think I'm in pretty good shape. I really don't see an issue with this. I can't feel it at all. There's just a little bit of pitting on there. In a perfect world, yes, this would have to be bored out, probably 30 over or so would probably clean that right off, but you know, it's not really what I want to do with this. So I'm pretty happy with this. You know, and the piston rides on a film of oil anyway. And some argue, actually, some of the old timers and just anybody in general argues that some imperfection like this is actually good because it gives the oil a place to hide so it can lubricate the piston. But well, we're not going to get into that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I'm super happy with that. I think for what this build is, I'm actually going to leave this alone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the cylinders, all 8 of them, and just spend a little bit of time on them, probably, you know, 3 to 5 minutes per cylinder. And then after that, I'll go through and I'll do my 45-degree cross hatches. I'll see how good a shape my stones are in. And you know what? After that, I'm going to call it good, because I really don't see an issue with what I'm doing here. So we're kind of turning a bad day into a good day, hopefully. Well, you know what? That was a lot of work, but I think it paid off. These look beautiful right now. And what you're seeing there is basically nothing. It's just, you can't even feel it. So I'm not going to worry about it. I really, for what this build is, I sound like a broken record, but for what this build is, that's going to work totally fine. I've been messing around with engines for a long time, and you know, some people get it in their mind where things have to be 100% perfect right on the 10,000th of an inch. But you know what? Motors, back in the hit and miss days, you know, you could bore one of those out with a piece of sandpaper and the thing would run. You know, obviously things have changed since then, but you know, the moral of the story is an engine doesn't have to be 100%, you know, this kind of engine 100% precise to run. And that's what's cool about older engines. Now if this was a newer engine in a newer car like a 2025, well, you wouldn't be getting away with this stuff probably. That's why I like working on the old stuff. But anyway, so you can see we have a lot of 45-degree cross hatches in here now. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a demonstration on how to do that. Alright, so in case you haven't guessed yet, I am by no means a professional engine builder, but I have built a lot of engines. So do what I'm doing at your own risk. Alright, so to do cross hatches, you just spray a little bit of lube in there. You don't want the drill moving real fast for this. You just want it going real slow. And then you want to go up and down really fast like this. You want to do that for a while. Mind you, the drill is going pretty slow compared to what we were doing when we were cleaning the rust and stuff off. The purpose of the crosshatches is to help the oil stay in the cylinder, to help the piston float on a cushion of oil, essentially. A lot of people think a smooth piston is a happy piston or a cylinder. That is far from the truth. When you look in there and you see these 45-degree scratches, that's really good. So I've been doing each cylinder for about 2 minutes roughly. And that's plenty to put sufficient crosshatches in for our budget build. How many times have I said budget build on this video? Or something along those lines. Alright, gonna wipe that off with a little bit of paper towel. Oh, beautiful. I think this engine's gonna run just fine. There's no need to get worried about all this high-tech machining. So just keep your keyboards to yourself. And there you have it. It's really hard to see on camera, but you can see it pretty good versus like the cylinder that's just got has no cross hatches at all. This one's got quite a bit. It's real hard to see on camera. Just take my word for it. Come on. So that's a really good workout with your arms. So I'm just gonna keep on doing the rest of these cylinders like this, and I think we're gonna be in good shape here. Got all the cross hatching done. I think it looks pretty darn good. This side came out really nice. Get down in there, you can see it's hard to see the cross hatch on camera. There you go. Beautiful. I'm very happy with the way this is. I think this is gonna work out good. The cylinder in question, it's pretty hard to see, but it looks worse on camera than it does in real life. Actually, now you can kind of see. I think the camera kind of enhances defects, I guess. Not on Marketplace when you go look at stuff though. Cameras make it look real good. So we started out with an engine that we had no idea what it was. Found the problem. Fixed the problem. I mean, you know, one can only hope that we fixed the problem. Well, we fixed the problem, but it all depends who you ask. Let's just leave it in that. All these high-end YouTube mechanics out there are gonna say, you didn't fix nothing. But you know what? I think those guys that say we didn't fix nothing are gonna be sorry when they hear this thing start up for the first time, and they're gonna be like, wow, high voltage diesel does know what they're doing on gas engines. Alright, so I flipped one of the heads up. You know, of course, same amount of rust. Didn't really get to them that much. I'm not gonna get to them that much in this video because this, you know, engine building is a drag out process, and I want to get a video up for everyone to watch, to share my frustration and excitement with this bad investment. But honestly, the cylinders don't look that bad, or the cylinder heads rather don't look that bad. I think I can pull the valves out, wire brush the crap out of everything, valve lap stuff. I'll probably put new seals in it and put it back together and call it good. I'm not gonna be porting out and going all crazy on stuff. That's not what I'm gonna do on this. I think we're just gonna roll with what we got and be happy with it. Okay, so a standard bore on a 454 is 4.250 inches, and that's what we got our caliper set at here. So for everybody that says I ruined this motor, look at this. That fits right down in there, perfect. At 4.250. You really got to do a lot of honing to bore an engine out. I mean, you know, of course you are, you know, every time that thing goes around you're boring it, but you know, not enough to make a difference. You line that up, it just slips right down in there. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the cylinders are perfectly round and all that, but it goes right, when you line it up, it just falls right down in there. So yeah, I went around and checked them just to kind of see if anything was super out of whack, and yeah, it is a standard bore 454, that's for sure. So I think what I'm going to do is get creative and go on and see what kind of pistons I can find. But you guys are going to see that in, well, not the next video, but one of the upcoming videos. Well, folks, what do you think? Make sure you write down in the comments, what do you think about this big block Chevy? Did we destroy it? How bad was the problem? Do you think it's going to run good? Do I have any idea what I'm doing? I say I built motors, but do you actually believe that? I don't know. I guess the people that know me will believe what they want, and the people that don't will be like, this guy doesn't have a clue what he's doing. But anyway, we're gonna keep on going. And I think a few videos down the road and a few $100 down the road, hopefully, I think we are gonna have a sweet big block Chevy for our 70 Impala, our YouTube special. Cause you know I bought this car for the channel, and this is what we're working on. This motorhome engine is gonna serve us well. We got a lot of work to do to it, but it's all gonna be fun. It's all gonna be interesting. We're all gonna learn a thing or two. We're all gonna bend a few rods every now and then. It ain't no big deal. You ain't gotta worry about stuff going crazy, and you ain't gotta be ashamed about it. We'll all bend a rod every now and then. Well, thanks again for watching another episode of High Voltage Diesel. Well, High Voltage Gas in this episode. And I can't wait to see you in the next video, working on some more junk around here that we just keep filling this garage up with. But make sure you stay tuned, because I really look forward to seeing you. Take care.